I'm here to announce to all of the people that have ever sold cars, gone to their used car manager and told them why the customer doesn't like the car, that we have in fact found the used car factory. We found it. We found it. Has anybody ever said that I've said it a lot. I was a sales manager. I was like, bro, what do you want me to do? Go to the used car factory? You got to be kidding me right now, right? But we found it. I'd love for these gentlemen to go ahead and introduce themselves real quick. We'll go right down the line. Tell me your name, who you're with, a little bit about what you do, but don't go too deep. Like, don't give me a whole 4-minute pitch. We did Pitch Tank yesterday. Sound good? Here we go.
Sounds good. Hey, Anthony Monteiro, Auto Acquire AI. Long history in automotive retail and building software. Worked for Sonic and was a chief product officer for eLead for many years. And now we're just trying to figure out how to put used cars in dealerships, driveways versus customers.
That's awesome.
I'm Joel Bassam. I'm the president of Eastern's Automotive Group. We have 11 rooftops right in this market, DC and Baltimore.
Amazing.
Todd Caputo. I am a former dealer of 30-something years. Sold my dealerships in 2020 to Sonic, and currently doing some consulting now for car dealers and vendors in the automotive space.
And your nickname was?
The Used Car King.
See, I think we're going to be good, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a few experts here up on the stage. I want to go first to Todd because you obviously spent so much time in retail and used cars were a massive part of your business. I'd love to just set the groundwork for what it takes to get a used car inventory that your customers need, want, and that your store can sell. Can you just lay a framework for what we're dealing with in our industry? I think there's obviously some used car people, there's some new car people, there's some industry partners, there's people who have worked at used car stores and whatnot. But lay a framework for what we're dealing with and then bring us to current state.
Sure. So I think it depends on the perspective that you're looking at. So if you're a new car dealer with a franchise or multiple franchises, you want to trade for every car you can possibly get, especially in this market because it's so hard to get cars. You should not be missing trades. Especially trades that you can retail. I think that's number one. And besides that, you have to have used car inventory. If you're an independent used car dealer, it's a bit more challenging because a lot of the trades that you don't take in or that you take in aren't necessarily vehicles that you can retail. They're more wholesale pieces. So you have to go out and acquire those cars, whether it's at auction or from your database or from the service drive. If you're a new car dealer or a used car dealer, and really from the general public. And then you have to know, obviously, what you can sell and what you can pay to acquire those cars. And in this particular time that we're in, and I've been doing this for 30 plus years professionally, and even before that, because I had a wash mitt in my hand when I was 5 years old, I'll tell you that I've never, ever seen it this competitive before trying to acquire inventory. And those of you that are out there that are dealers, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It is impossible to get cars. You can get them, but it's not easy. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, that's great. Joel, you're obviously on the ground doing it right now with a bunch of rooftops. Can you explain the volume of used car inventory that you have and what the systems that you've put in place to find used cars, let's call it to date, right? Because I know that you're transitioning a lot of the way that you want to do some of that stuff. But what's the strategy? What does it look like to fill that level of used car?
Yeah, I mean, just for scale, we sell about 1,000 used cars a month. And so, that means we have to buy at least that, right? And so the reality is what Todd's saying is completely true. I mean, I think it's a result of the continued fragmentation of the wholesale market across multiple platforms. Just means that it's impossible to win across them all. And that will not get better anytime soon. I mean, the reality is you'd have to multiply your team 3 or 4 times if you have a centralized wholesale team like we do to be able to be and have a presence in all of these multiple platforms to win in every single one of them, which is, frankly impossible. And, I heard it brought up on another panel at this conference that why isn't AI buying cars? Well, the data set that you're relying on to put a value in that car versus a CR across all these platforms is woefully inaccurate and not reliable. You could run the same car in 2 different places and have 2 completely different CRs. And so the reality is you still need to be that on the ground dealer. And what Todd's saying in this market is the people that are at the biggest disadvantage are the small players, and I think that's generally been what people have talked about across the entire automotive space, which is small players are at a huge disadvantage. In the wholesale space, that might be the greatest disadvantage because you can't be across the entire United States at every auction. If you're buying digitally, you can't put your hands in the car. If you're buying, in one lane, you can't be in multiple places. If you're buying on just one platform, let's say it's ACV, then you're not in Dealer Club. If you're not in Dealer Club, then you're not in Open Lane. If you're not in Open Lane, then you're not in Manheim. If you're not in Manheim, you're not in Odessa. If you're not in simulcast, you're not here. And it gets wild. And then that doesn't even count the fact of, well, you've got maybe a used car manager who's not in line with the rest of the team, putting values on a trade, trying to make wholesale profit as opposed to generate retailable cars. And so it comes down, in my opinion, to culture, which for us, like our view is always you sell a car when you buy it, and everything is off of that. Like that is the core of everything that you should be doing in your acquisition strategy. It's solely this car I'm buying for the sake of selling it at this price in this current climate, and I need to be prepared to do X, Y, and Z as the market moves, which you can either leverage data to forecast that out or leverage gut to forecast it out. That's still a valuable tool in this market. So like that's really where we're at. It's focused on how am I going to sell this car at the point of purchase first, and everything else comes after that.
Yeah, I had a former boss that said your acquisition strategy should turn into an exit strategy, right? Like you make your exit at the acquisition is kind of the idea. Anthony, you've seen this problem that Todd has kind of presented and come up with a thesis for where you feel the market is going and needs to go. Talk a little bit about where did you see that problem? Because you've been in a bunch of tech, and obviously you hear and listen to a lot of things, but why was this the problem you needed to tackle, and how are you looking at it?
Yeah, so in the last company, the startup I did was a company called Draver, and it was a logistics transportation company that we were helping dealers that were acquiring cars directly from consumers, the big names, you can name them all, and they wanted a system where people in our drivers would go pick up their cars, the used cars that they were either trading or selling directly. Spending time with those guys, I noticed that they had really good science around putting a value on a car, like right now in that market, like specifically nailing it and getting customers to raise their hand and say, I want to sell you my car. And then what they did is they made it super easy, right? Anybody ever go to Carvana and try to either sell your car to them or mirror what they're doing to do it in your dealership? They don't call you, they don't harass you, they just give you a lot of really cool tools to walk yourself through that sales transaction. So in the back of my mind, I'm like, I know how to build all this tech, I've done all this stuff. Let's build a cool little package for dealers that they can do the same exact thing inside of their dealership. I don't care if you're small or bigger. Bigger is better, right? Because we can mine more data and get more opportunities, but make it easy, automate it. Like we've heard automation and AI and machine learning and every single buzzword in the world. Well, we do all of those and try not to use the buzzwords, just make it work. And sometimes you gotta mix a lot of those ingredients to make that pie, not just one or half of one.
Yeah, and you're obviously talking about the data that's in-house. And Todd, when we were talking about beforehand, you're like, this is an opportunity to go spend all the money, basically, right? Because you kind of have to offer all the money to get the right cars. Actually, we heard Patrick the other day talking about, wanting to spend all the money and then retail all the money, but we have to be asking all the money for these cars. We're going to, Joel, you're going to the auction, seeing some of these big box retailers put $2, $3, $4 grand more than we even think is possible on one of these cars. How, why, and how often should we be offering all the money, and to who?
So if you're a dealer in the room, I would strongly encourage you to mystery shop the process that a customer goes through if they want to sell or trade their car into your dealership. And just don't do it with one VIN. Do it with like 20 or 30 VINs and look at what you get. Look at the values that you get, and look at the follow-up that you get or lack of, and see how a dealer actually how you or another dealer in your market actually follow up with you or do not follow up with you. That's number one. Most importantly is, like you just said, it's the value of the car. Customers are smart, and they will copy and paste their VIN in 4 or 5 different platforms, different dealers, if they're looking to sell their car or they're looking to trade it in. And we all learned this during COVID. They will travel They will go far if they're going to get $500 more on trade or $1,000 more in their trade. If you have a car that they want to buy and you're 3 states away or 8 states away or even on the other side of the country, they'll go and get it. They will go buy that car or they will pay somebody to ship it back. And there's technology out there like Run Buggy or whatever to arrange that to happen. So you've got to make sure literally weekly that you are offering all the money for all the different kinds of cars that you want. And it isn't always late model cars too. A lot of people trade in older used cars. You can't offer them $1,000 for a car that's worth 3 or 4 wholesale because you don't have your algorithm set up properly. So I think that's really important. Just mystery shop yourself or have somebody do it. That's what I do for a living now, right? I help dealers. I mystery shop them. Do that, and you'll be shocked. I mean, literally shocked sometimes.
Well, my favorite is I'll run a mystery shop on a trade tool, and I'll get. It looks like you were interested in brackets, year, brackets, make, brackets, model, vehicle. Thank you so much for your interest. Do you want to test drive it today? It's like
it's true. I mean,
it's true. And we're struggling buying used cars.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the key things of like why we have partnered with Anthony's company is if you wait to the point of a customer even wanting to look to sell a car, you've already missed, right? I mean, if we're talking about trade-ins in particular, because to
Todd just said it, 4 or 5.
Yeah. Exactly, to Todd's point, and we experience that on a daily basis. If customers are coming in for a sell-only trade, everyone's favorite customer, right? I just want to sell my car, I don't want to see anything, here you go. And by the way, here's my list of offers. Carvana gave me this, CarMax gave me this, the guy down the street gave me that. And what are you going to do for me? And I'm willing to walk away right now, right? And so, like, if you're at that stage, to be honest, like, it's a race to the top, which is a race to the bottom, right? For us as the dealer, and it's that lack of transparency in the market where you've got a couple of key players that are nationally present and advertising more on the buy my car than the sell their cars. What does that tell you about how much that there's an opportunity there, right? Everyone in the market is looking to just hit the easy button. Like Carvana has never been the cheapest. CarMax has never been the cheapest, but they've been the easiest for a long time. And even if they weren't, their brand perception is that. And
you kind of earlier, you kind of gave me this like, why can't we? We were standing out there next to the bleachers. Why can't we with trade values? Give a little bit of that. Like,
yeah, I mean,
your
it's
thoughts?
exactly the same thing. It's like and I'm guilty of this too. Just to be clear, you're a dealer in the room. You're probably doing trade emails to your customers right now, saying, "I want to buy your car," and that's it. And then there's a link, a CTA link that goes to a trade appraisal form where they start from scratch. Like, that is ridiculous. Like, you sold them the car and did financing for them. You know their payoff, you know their VIN, you probably know their mileage because you might be servicing them. Yet we ask them to duplicate that information and then don't let them just shop for equity in real time. And then this is like a long-term lack of investment in CDPs and data mining and automation further down the sales funnel to create these customized emails and drop them into a concerted and curated environment that's specific to them. Like, that is where our industry is going. And the big guys have a huge head start on this, like huge, like by far. But that being said, I mean, I don't know if you guys get these. I get postcards from Carvana and it just says value your trade, which is crazy because if I'm my little dealership group by comparison to a Carvana, know every lead because of Anthony's service, every lead that comes in, what the trade is owned for that vehicle, they could have told me your 2020 Camry is worth X, shop here. Like, but they're still sending you blanket, just fill out this information. So like, even they're behind, but we can own this space because that first party data has so much value. And if you don't have it first party, it's relatively inexpensive to backfill that trade information and then drop them into a curated environment.
Yeah, Anthony, when you think about that thesis exactly, like you're nodding your head over there. I'm seeing you going, that's what we're trying to solve. How are you uniquely, I just heard like, explain this thing where, because you said that to me earlier, you get any lead and then there's a trade value or a garage trade. You said to me, like, how do I own the garage? How do I own the household? The extension of the first party data. What's that look like?
Yeah, so we're so used to and we're really good at mining that service lane because we know that customer, we know they're coming in, and we've been doing it for years, right? I told my partner, I said, I used to do that back in the 90s. I'd put a chalkboard in the service lane and just say, I want to buy your 89 Ford Taurus. That's how long I've been doing this. But so what we've been able to do with connection to databases that we buy, and some of it comes from the government, is with a phone number and an email address, I can tell you every single vehicle that customer has in their garage. We can also virtualize the data of where they bought it, the loan, the payment amount, in the term the same way as if you sold them the car. So imagine every internet lead that Joel gets or any dealership gets, I'm only going to sell 10 or 11, 12% of those, but I got 80% or more that they're going to go buy somewhere else. What if I could get their trades? What if I could get 20% of that, sell me directly your trade, because I'm putting the right number on it. And that's another piece of it. We've developed our own way to put a value on that car. We tell you what the market data is and what that instant cash offer is, but we also give it back to the dealer to say, hey, if you want to be a little more aggressive than what the market says, you have those tools now to say, I want to really be aggressive when that customer comes through the process. So we kind of blended those two really key value propositions and buying directly from consumer together.
Yeah, Joel, just go back to the CDP, because I think we've heard that term a few times from a marketing perspective, but you were saying like, hey, the value of a CDP is the owned audience and the extension of the owned audience here. Like, talk to me how you're thinking about like the CDP as in this strategy, as opposed to just like an acquisition or retention strategy.
I mean, I think it's all of the above, right? I mean, it has to be. A CDP is like, it gets talked about as a solution. It's not. Like, you know, the reality is it's a placeholder for a solution to be plugged into. And this is like kind of one of the things that isn't being talked about enough, of backfilling the garage data on the consumer's currently owned vehicles as part of that CDP journey. And so like you're actioning on that in future, because like we peel all back of the layers, right? There's two versions of, or I guess three versions of acquisition strategy for a dealer in used cars, right? You're either acquiring, and when I'm talking about, I mean that in a way of acquiring it from a consumer. You're acquiring it because you want to retail that car, you're acquiring it because you want to sell that customer a car, or you're acquiring it because you want to wholesale that car, right? Those are really only three avenues. I can't think of a fourth, like maybe junking it, I suppose, which is kind of the third, right? So like in that instance, like you have to at least know what they own, right? I mean, that's it. That's what we're talking about here. That's what Anthony solved for. And if everyone in the room could know right now, everyone in their CRM data, what car they own and what it's worth, that I don't think there's a single dealer in here who doesn't want to know that information.
Yeah. Whether
Whether they can do something with it, that's where a CDB comes into. But like the reality is, and you know, fast forwarding towards plugging them into shopping with equity, that's payoff information. That's more. That's like kind of 201, 301, 401 stuff. But in the meantime, like I get a lead for a customer with a Camry, and I know they own a Jeep Cherokee. That's great. I know they have a trade. Like how many times have you guys been sitting with a customer and you're foursquaring, and you get all the way to the end, they're like, oh yeah, I have a junk trade in the driveway. Does that mean anything? They're like, yes, that means a lot. Anyone who's ever financed knows that's a huge deal. Like, but they don't mention it because they don't think it's worth anything.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, but if you knew that when the customer checked in for your appointment, oh, are you planning on trading in your car? Like that's a huge win. And on top of that, you can market to them more aggressively, trying to buy their car. It's another reason of building trust to not just be sell, sell, sell. All right, I can help you with this specific need as well.
Todd, I'm coming to you, but if you have questions for any of these three, we've got the Q&A app open. I'll go to that here in just a second, so make sure get participating in that. You can go to the agenda and app there. You know, leaning on, you said you can know it, but what do you do with it? You said one way is the CDP, interacting with them from engagement, marketing, emails, things like that. But Todd, you're super bullish about creating a culture of used car acquisition, where it's not just used car or one or two buyers thinking about this on a daily basis, but creating a culture. How do you extend that culture to the entire store?
So every person that works in your car dealership should get paid if they find a car that you can buy and sell, retail or wholesale. It doesn't matter if it's the title clerk, it could be the porter, it could be your CFO, anybody. Everybody, you have to have that culture. We all count on the board how many cars we sold for the month. We mark our little points, right? Mark the board, shade it in, however you do it digitally. But are we tracking that in the dealership? How many cars we bought from the public? How many did we buy from the public? How many did we buy from the service drive? How many did we buy, in trade equity when we mined our database? Like that has to be literally a part of the DNA of your business in this environment. It has to be. All your marketing has to be geared towards it. On your website, it's got to be front and center, like right at the top, and it can't be below the fold. We want to buy your car.
Your word tracks.
Yeah, your word tracks. And you have to have process for it. It just has to be literally part of the culture and the DNA of your store. And if it's not, you'll do okay. But if you want to own your market and be a real used car player and be able to compete with a CarMax in your market or a Carvana in your market, that's what you have to do. All your pay plans, your entire culture, you literally think your DNA, your dealership is not just about selling cars, it's about buying them.
When I was learning and getting to the desk and becoming integrated into used car acquisitions and things like that early in my career, the talk was like, all right, with the pack, we got to be at 87% cost to market, right? Like that's all you get because we got to make money on this thing. And then there's like, yeah, but okay, well, you got to make the deal. So over allow a bit, all right, but keep the actual cash value. You lose the gross on the front one, on the back one, we'll make it up. But don't worry, we're not going to merchandise or recon that thing fast enough to actually meet your 87% cost to market, all this type of stuff, right? It was a whole mess. Two of the questions are kind of matched up here. Joel, I'll probably take this to you. How do you like get over this culture that I think we've created in our industry that is like, well, it started at 87. If you got to go to 90 ACV, don't worry about that. But also be careful because, you know, your customer may have gotten 4 or 5 other offers, so you can put that ACV on it, but as a desk manager, like you might want to go just a bit further. How do you balance like having the right actual cash value and the right price to market, but not creating a culture where you're just trying to lose trades?
God, that's hard.
That's a big question, I know.
I'm glad you got that question.
Yeah.
You could answer that one in like 2 minutes.
I mean, that's really hard. I mean, you just have to be consistent with it. I mean, you got to put your best offer first. I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about, and it's got to be backed by data. I mean, that depends on your scale. I mean, in a regular environment, right? What I would say a regular environment, a franchise environment, what you can't have is a used car manager and a sales manager and a fixed op manager who are on different pay plans that don't align. To Todd's point, like everyone has to win on that. So right out the gate, that can't be, well, he's going to rip me off or they're going to rip me off, therefore I need to ask for more. If you're centralized like we are, it has to be a trust thing of, and I'll be honest, like even in our, like we are aggressive and we put the best number on there, especially like and I don't know if any of the dealers do this, like we use max offer. Like I have no problem admitting that. To me, it's a book value at this point. Like I consider that a check of the market. Okay, AccuTrade says this, max offer says that. All right, I want to be here, right? Regardless of whether the customer does it. And another part of that, to your point, then I'll just small tangent. Like if you run a max offer, you can see if they have already done that, which they might not have mentioned.
It has that VIN been
right,
hit
which is
recently.
super helpful. I mean, and just let's be honest, they have the data anyway, right? So if you're concerned about that, like, come on. But the point is, like in that instance, unless there's a real exception to it, you stick to the trade offer. Like that's what it's worth. It's over. It's done. And there are specific instances where I need the extra $500 to get it over this threshold. Like we'll bend on that. But I mean, that's a culture of trust, though. That just takes time. But to answer your question, I don't really have an answer. It's just,
so CarMax is
culture.
here, and I was actually just talking to. He's on the investment side of the thing, but he was actually saying like, hey, look, we hope dealers use that. Like, right. I mean, yeah, obviously they want the data, but they're becoming much more of a partner. They're actually here because they're partnering with some of the tech companies and dealers in the room. So I think, you know, companies like that are playing in this game, and I think everybody realizes these trades are all going to go somewhere. It's just who wants it more. Right?
Yeah. I mean, and I'm not afraid to, like, we will dump cars to CarMax if we think that they're doing something crazy with it. Then the Brian Kramer would be upset about that, but that's the reality of it. Like sometimes we'll be at 9 and CarMax is at 13.5. Okay, they can buy it. Go for it. That's great. Good for them.
Yep. Anthony, this is a question for you. How can a dealer using your software adjust their value, and what value provider do you use, or is it like an algorithm combining a lot?
Yeah. So it's an algorithm that we created over time. It's taken approximately, Chris could answer, 2 years plus to bring in data from everywhere and use all the data, the MMR, the KBB, and all of the instant cash offer value. So we've created kind of what's the middle of the road if someone goes out to some of the big players and pops their VIN in there, max offer, let's call it, you're going to fall somewhere right around 100% of where they are. So we give you now the tools to say, here's all the data. Do you want to be behind that because you don't need that many of those? Or do you want to be in front of it? And if you want to be in front of it, just tweak it up a little bit, and you can drill that all the way down year, make, model, trim, year, range. So if I want to be really aggressive and go after Honda Accords, here's the other cool thing, and I'll tangent just a little bit on that, is we just visited a big group. It's got 32 stores. With the garage mining tool, we're able to take every single vehicle that their dealership had in their database and expand it to their garage. So the Honda store had a bunch of F-150s, the Ford store had a bunch of Honda Accords. So now we were able to create this massive amount of VINs that they can specifically go proactively, right? Put a number on it and send a simple email that says, this is what your car's worth. I don't want to sell you anything. I'm not trying to tell you the special of the month. This is what your car's worth. And oh, by the way, if you ever want to sell it to us, click this button. And then they'll do that over and over again.
Yeah, I think that the old days of the fear of like giving someone the number you have to rip that out of your culture, right? They've already got the number. Like, put your best offer out there. I just lost what I was going to say because I said that instead.
Adjusting the value.
Adjusting the value, yeah. So I think what I see with this is a stocking plan that's really resilient. But I also think what this gives you the opportunity to do is turn around on your selling plan and be proactive with the next thing that you need to stock. Because now you're constantly looking at your data for what's available to bring into your used car inventory. So if you're segmenting your data, you understand exactly what's in it. What you can be doing is drafting segments that you can always go after. So think about it like this, right? And this still exists, right? You've got you got a Mazda lane, you got a Toyota lane, you got a GM lane, and if you're at one of those dealers, you get first crack at it. Then you go to the lane after that. Maybe you got the cheap lane or the most expensive lane, and we've learned to buy these by lanes. Well, you have a bunch of lanes right in your data, right? So like, you need that high price car, you need that low price car, you need that Honda Accord, go to the lane, but it's your lane, right?
Imagine if you can turn that lane into an AI agent that at some point knows exactly what you should buy, what the market's doing, and goes and puts the right number on the car and says, oh, here, by the way, here's all the vehicles I started the process for you. Do you want to add more to this, or do you want to adjust it?
Yeah, and we haven't got a chance to talk about this yet. But we use another data vendor for other behavioral firing on third-party sites, and they have the ability to pull in consumers who are actively shopping or have used queries around valuing trade and have landed on those pages, and then pushing back that audience that are already in your CRM. And so you combine that with something that immediately puts values on it for cars that I don't even have in my system that they own. That is the lane you're talking about, right? And that all sounds like it's big data, but it's not. It's actually super small data. It's boiled down to what you have. And that, it just opens up these huge opportunities. And to me, the way that we buy cars, the examples you're using of a Honda Accord, to me, it's not a Honda Accord. It's an affordable four-door, right? And that's really what that's what I want to always tailor things to. It's what's a car with a third row under 20 grand? That matters more to me than it being a Palisade or this or that, right? So getting away from brand specifics and focusing on the intangibles of a vehicle, of what was the year where the infotainment changed on this car to have CarPlay, that matters more. Yeah. Those, and that's kind of stuff that a tool like AccuTrade does a decent job at, but overall, that's what matters to a customer. And so boiling that into your approval process, your acquisition strategy is paramount to the way that you're going to acquire these cars.
I want to talk about follow-up a little bit.
I'm good with that.
I'm kind of an old school guy. I love technology, don't get me wrong, but you got to follow up with people, and you need to do it longer term, especially if they want to sell or trade their car. And that's where I see a lot of dealers that fail as well. They give up after the first couple tries, and that's one of the things that I plug in VINs in Carvana all the time. I do it a lot, because I'm trying to prove things to dealers, right? You're light. You got to put all the money in the car. So I constantly get emails from Carvana about all these different VIN numbers that I've put in there. And we've all seen the value tracker, right? We've seen the ad on TV where the husband and wife are sitting in bed and they decide whether they're going to finally pull the trigger and sell their car to Carvana because the value of it went up. Used cars have been going up lately. Anybody following the used car market know that used cars have been going up, right? But if you're not following up with those people, with emails or text messages or just check-ins from your BDC to see if they're still selling it, a lot of dealers give up. They just do. People, they might want to know what their car is worth in May, but they may not be ready until September after their kids go off to school or college. But if you're only going after the low-hanging fruit for just a couple days, they're gone. I got news for you. Somebody else will end up buying their car or trading for it. So like follow-up is important. And again, back to what I said before, DNA, culture, and then having process for it.
So I'm going to challenge the room, and I'm going to challenge Anthony and anybody in the room that builds tech or that has industry partners that build tech. I know there are 3 resilient systems of record in our industry and in most industries. Most have 2. Ours adds a 3rd. Those 3 resilient sources of record are the phone number, the address, and in our industry, the VIN number. Some people would challenge that email is a part of that, but I would challenge that perspective because I think emails are flaky and they're flighty and they move too fast. So those 3, and the reason why phone number's been added is because it's a source of one-time password or 2FA. So it is your system of record. If 2 of those live in what's called a CDP, I believe that we need to be thinking about either our CDPs or having a secondary system of record, a vehicle detail platform. Now, I'm not going to call it a VDP. Someone else figure out the other piece for that, because I think we need to see how vehicles move. What's that? VDDP, right? But I think we need to see how vehicles move and how the connected records move against those. And that will extend garages, it will extend customer data, and it will keep a single source of record for your store on what happens on that VIN. Because now you see how that VIN moves across customers, how that VIN moves across your city, and incrementally what that VIN's value over time is. So I think if we could figure that out and we can own the VIN as well as the customer, right? Then you actually have your lanes of your used car factory.
I mean, I think the low-hanging fruit on that would be someone convincing Carfax to give us that data, because like that they have the service. And
they may or may not be in the room.
I know they are. I'm just saying, like, it's
so
they're local.
They do have an API.
We know them well.
They have an API.
I'm just saying, like, but like that service data will be key. I mean, because that would actually give you that mileage update too. Like, because like right now trying to scrape it is it's too much data.
Yep.
I don't know if you set me up for this or not, because we didn't talk about that.
We didn't talk about that at all.
We didn't talk about it, but yes, and that's exactly what we do. We call it an exact ID, and we try to match it to every VIN of its entire history of anything it's ever done. And our system is the reverse of a CRM. So I mentioned I was the Ely guy for many years. Well, I took that concept and I said, well, we care about the VIN is the personality. The VIN is the hero. So if you ever logged in the CRM, the person is on the left of your opti details and the vehicles are on the right. Our system is exactly the opposite. The VIN is the hero. Oh, by the way, these customers have some association to that VIN, but let me tell you about the VIN, because I'm trying to buy the car, not the customer. So
dang it, Anthony.
Boom,
Freaking
boom, boom.
came in with the doom mic drop. Hey, thank you all so much for committing to this. These cats will be hanging out and willing to answer questions. Thanks for coming and finding the used car factory with us. Give these gentlemen a round of applause for giving you their time.